We are spiritual beings living human experiences, not the other way around. That is a quote from today's, our very own special guest, Mr. Sean Austin. At the end of the day, all of us are finding our way through life, guided by our thoughts, our desires, and feelings. Spirituality connects us with a dimension of life that is greater than ourselves. All religion aside, spirituality begins within and is what allows us to live from a place of greater compassion for ourselves and others. Today we're joined by a true chaser of spirits, singer-songwriter, paranormal investigator, medium, demonologist, and author, Sean Austin of Travel Channel's Ghost Loop and Discovery Channel's The Demon Files. Today we'll be talking music and spiritual success in life and in the world of the paranormal. My name is Amanda Ashley, and this is Afternoon Cocktail, episode 41, Spiritual Success. Welcome. Sean Austin, you gifted man, welcome to our show. How are you today?
I'm doing great. How you guys doing?
I'm awesome. So, you have so many incredible titles. So let's start off with you as a musician first. Could you start us off with one of your original songs?
Yeah, absolutely. This song is actually one of my older songs. I actually use quite a few different alternate tuning type songs. I got really involved with using that sort of thing. This one's called Wherever You Will Be. Coincidence brought me to safeness. Strange links that spread deeply through encounters, starting a return. Long distant feelings take me wherever you will be. I'll be ready when you need. With me, I'll be what you can understand. No changes can make everything same. When I took off for granted, it's the flame. Take me wherever you will be. I'll be ready when you need. With me, I'll be what you can understand. Everything goes around. Grassland, mirror stuck, yeah. Everywhere seems like nowhere. Totally stranded. Coincidence strikes me with fortune stone to be familiar. Lyric recognized. Take me wherever you will be. I'll be ready when you need. With me, I'll be what you can understand. I'm here for you. Take me
Mr. Sean Austin. Awesome job. So, Sean, you originally started off as a singer-songwriter. That was your original pursuit?
That was my original pursuit. Yeah, that was my first passion that I got involved with. It took me over by a storm in my teenager years, and just being able to put feelings and emotions into words, and being able to create some sort of art and express it on a new extreme level. I mean, I would always call writing music for me as if it was my invisible therapist through the years, because we go through things and endure obstacles throughout life, and to be able to just put it on paper and release it and sing it out, and extend that emotion to whatever you're experiencing is a very special experience for me. And obviously it's been with me to this day. And I never thought I'd be involved with the paranormal. That kind of hit me like a meteor out of the sky. But, I'm just appreciative to be able to have passions and be, pretty decent at it, and just, push at it, and try to, progress any way that I can, whether helping people through music or through spirituality.
That's so funny. Invisible therapist. It's so true. I feel the same way about music. It really has gotten me through everything in my life. But yeah, spiritually, it connects you in so many ways as well to, the people that your music reaches. So when did you begin writing? When did you begin writing music and playing guitar and singing? When did you discover that you had this gift?
Well, music was about like 15, going between 15 and 16. I took actually like a few guitar lessons, and from there my ear became my best teacher, and I just honed in on that skill. I think the most challenging thing was trying to be able to sing and play guitar at the same time, because there's two different tempos going on when you're trying to do that. I think I want to throw the guitar out the window a few times. But once I was able to do that, I just honed in on it, and then writing became pretty natural for me, and writing lyrics and being poetic, and writing deep stuff. And sometimes I really wonder about where it was coming from. And now being involved in the spiritual realm and the field, the paranormal, it makes me look back and seeing how connected music and spirituality truly is.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, so you just released an album pretty recently. I don't know how you have time to do all the things you do. You're amazing. So you released an album recently called 4C. Could you tell us a little bit about it and the songs that you've written on there?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the title song for the actual EP named 4C, there's actually an image that's on the front cover of the CD. And if you look at it, it's to be taken by interpretation, because I wanted to connect it to personal emotional experiences that I've had, but also tie into the spirituality type stuff and the paranormal things that go on as well, because that's actually going to be the cover of my second book, which I did with my first book, which you have the same cover. They're kind of like a mini soundtrack to the book, in a way. But the song 4C is kind of like, I wrote about that song just basically saying that I need to be inspired to be in love, or I never settle just for the sake of settling. And it's just like I'm connecting into my intuitive abilities and my inner feelings and my soul to feel that connection. I need to be inspired in every aspect when it comes to love, and that's really what that song's all about. A few other songs on there. There's a song called "Don't Turn on Yourself," which is basically like walking through your everyday life, and you're kind of like in denial of who you're portraying, and going up against yourself really to be a better person, or what you're going through, some hard times, whatever it may be in life. There's a song called Tenfold, this nice lovey-dovey song. There's a nice diversified, few songs in there. I try to, like, when I do EPs, that there's kind of like an emotional wave that just kind of takes you throughout a couple of different scenes of emotions and not just one thing. But yeah, I love the process. I recorded it in Nashville with some really amazing musicians. It's really great to go down there and have people help produce your art and take it to that next level. And hearing that final product is definitely pleasurable, being an artist as I am.
Sure. And you also, this is your second album, correct? The one that you just released?
Well, I've released CDs throughout the years. Like my first solo CD I did in 2003. That was the first solo CD I ever did. I had bands before and we had CDs and stuff, but That was the first one that I went off by myself. I actually played all the instruments. I did bass guitar and drums
Wow.
because I love drums too. Again, my ear just kind of travels around and I just hear every instrument in my head. I want to be able to involve myself with that creation process. Yeah, I've been doing it for years, but these last EPs, these last two EPs are connected to books that I'm releasing. And it's connecting the spiritual sense with my music since I've been more involved in the paranormal lately.
So, what was it like growing up as Sean Austin? I mean, do you come from a musical background? I mean, what was your family life like?
Just typical family life growing up. There were some musicians, there's like a few musicians in my family, but nothing extraordinary or crazy when it comes to standing out as like musicians or singers. Just your typical growing up, playing all sports, going through life with the family. I was brought up Catholic. I always believed in God. Um, when the spiritual sense took over, it's not a matter of just believing God. I know God exists because of my firsthand experiences, and that's why I hold my faith really close to my heart and soul every day of my life, to protect me through all the crazy dark things I have to encounter.
Sure. So, I mean, how did your passion for music divert to the world of the paranormal? I mean, and in what ways has both worlds combined?
Well, in my like mid to late 20s, I guess it's cliche to say that I've been screwed over in the music industry. I had a history of people taking advantage of me, throwing loads of cash at them, saying they're going to do all this stuff for you, and you kind of just are left in the dust. And it just, it's heart wrenching. It sucks, and you kind of become like in some sort of complacent hell sometimes. I think, just getting swirled up and stuff, and then you got personal stuff going on with families and things like that. And I was just working a job. I was waitering at the time, and there was just a buddy of mine who's a big skeptic. I watched paranormal shows. I loved the stories of ghosts. I was reading Stephen King novels when I was in grammar school. I'm a big horror movie buff since I was a child. Like, it's funny. The only movie that terrified me as a child was The Exorcist. Go figure. Um, but so when I got involved, I took this guy to a cemetery that has a local lore of three women in white that would chase you out of the cemetery. And I wanted him to actually have an experience. And instead, while he's laughing and giggling, I was in front of a little child's grave, a little girl named Jenny. And, she responded to me. I asked her if Jenny was still here. I didn't understand that she actually responded to me until the next night when I listened back. And I was actually a flip phone right before we got smartphones. So it had a really crappy recorder on there. And actually, crappy recorders are better to record EVPs, if you know what that is, electronic voice phenomenon, which are disembodied voices of spirits that speak on a frequency that we typically can't hear with our audible ears. It's better to, obviously, these pieces of equipment can pick up on those frequencies. And I heard the child say, like, my two toys died in a child's voice. It was terrifying. It was freaky, but it was exhilarating. And it pushed me to want to go out and search more, investigate more, research more, experience more, and learn in every single way that I can. I started going out with a buddy of mine and just bounce around to some local cemeteries and thinking about, specific questions to get specific answers, and just increasing that tier of experience every time going out. Actually, within 2 to 3 weeks from that first experience of that little girl's voice is the first time I saw spirit. I woke up, it was light out in my old apartment, and I saw a shadow of a little girl at the corner of my bed, and she disappeared, and I just yelped like a little girl myself. It seems like as soon as I started engaging the spirit realm, I must have triggered abilities that were within me, obviously, the entire time, because obviously most of us, we all have psychic abilities. And then I started having a lot of experiences, I think, that were more so than your average person of just getting involved in the paranormal. And it just went on for years and years, and it led to me having a radio podcast and meeting well-known, knowledgeable people, or people that were involved with crazy paranormal cases. And it's just great to absorb and learn from so many people that have had some experiences that I'm not aware of or I've experienced. And it led me to meeting Ralph Sarchi, who's my mentor in demonology, and then led me to be on the Demon Files for Destination America and Discovery's Demon File pilot episode series. And then I just kept doing what I was doing and just traveling the country, investigating haunted locations, living at haunted locations a week at a time, and just, I never thought I would write a book, but because of having so many experiences and learning that whatever I am going through, whatever I'm experiencing in the paranormal, I think it's important to share those experiences to help others with. Obviously, it's good about helping yourself, but I think, one of the most important elements of being a human being is doing something for your fellow man or human being, by sharing that light, which God represents, unconditional love and forgiveness, which is the golden rule in the Bible. And I think that's the most important elements that we should pay attention to. Love others that we want to be loved, and that transcends every single religious belief that's out there. And that's why I just feel like, it's changed my life. It's the way I interpret life, the way you act out on things, and how it affects people negatively and positively from your actions. And it opens up your eyes in so many ways. And now, I experience something paranormal every single day, but I just soak it up like a sponge. I think it's a humbling gift to be able to have these experiences. And, because when we die, the cat's out of the bag. There's no mystery anymore. So when we're unraveling this and be able to learn that there is magical things that go on around us, miracles, and, angels watching over us and things like that. So I appreciate every single moment when it comes to that.
That first paranormal sighting that you had mentioned earlier, you think it's the same girl, Jenny, that you spoke about?
Yeah, absolutely. It was about 2 to 3 weeks after I had that first EVP. And it's funny, go figure. My first manager for my band in my teenager years, it was like around 16 years old. She was a medium. And it's so funny because, my band at the time, we would sit there in a restaurant and she'd look around like someone died here, and we'd all be giggling and laughing and stuff like that. But, she proved to me that she was truly psychic. And it's funny because after I had that experience, I ran into her, and I hadn't seen her in a while. And she's like, I see a little girl following you around. I'm like, well, that kind of makes sense. So kind of just more validation to what was going on. And I even have a recording of a little girl's voice that's so clear. And it says, I have a crush on Sean. And it's literally, it was taken, the recording was in my bedroom in the apartment I used to live in. It's ridiculous.
It's a little girl who's a sucker for a guy with a guitar, huh?
That's actually happened to me too. My guitar in my old apartment was sitting in the corner, and I just heard, this actually. Like I heard all the top strings just footing the top of my guitar, and I'm sitting there, I'm like, are you kidding me?
Do you ever freak yourself out with all this stuff? Like, I feel like my hairs would be sticking up all the time.
When it first started happening to me, the scary, creepy stuff, obviously I felt a little overwhelmed, and I always bring it back to like that Matrix movie moment. Like, do you want the blue pill or the red pill? I'm like, shit, what did I do? What did I do? I think I might have overstepped myself here. I don't know what I'm supposed to do, but now that I've gotten used to so much and really pay attention to my faith, because my faith is really what protects me, even though things come at me, having a deeper understanding of how these things try to scare you, try to terrify you, they soak up energy from you. They're trying to induce negative emotions within you as a human being to, they're like a spiritual parasite, and they need vampiric in a way. So they need those types of, energy from human beings to manifest more and continue that cycle of chaos within a person. So things try to mess with me. To have a deeper knowledge, an understanding of how they go at and try to terrify you is number one, is most important. But also the fact is that if God's truly more powerful than any evil spirit, and if you actually fear these evil spirits, then they sense it on your aura, and they'll use that against you. Because if you truly believe that God's more powerful than these things, then that's true faith. But if you sit there and are terrified of this thing, then they're going to be able to like, okay, then I can soak up that energy from you and attack you, or in any way they want, spiritually, emotionally, physically, or psychologically.
So you had mentioned that you had a Catholic upbringing. Were you ever fearful, like to break the news to your family, or even close friends that, hey, like, I'm seeing these things, I'm feeling these things, like I have these recordings? Like, did you ever fear that you had to like defend your faith to them because of your upbringing?
My parents are very supportive. They believed in it. They creeped the heck out of my mother. And my dad was just kind of freaked out too. But they were supportive of it, just kind of like, perplexed by it. Of course, when you first get involved in paranormal, you're gonna have people that scoff at this sort of thing, and then you have people just like really interested or intrigued by it. It's just because one or the other. Yeah, I mean, like, of course, when you start posting things online, you're gonna have people. There's always gonna be people that don't believe or do believe. But I mean, the way I've actually traveled through this whole journey into the paranormal, like, I don't care what people think. I know what I experience, and I don't need to prove it to other people. But if it's one person I'm changing or helping, or a million people, I'm still making a difference. And that's what I'm trying to do with all my experiences, with all my individual knowledge that I'm learning myself, and to share that with any soul that I encounter on this planet, whether they're living or dead. And that's something that I was called and drawn to as well, is trying to help spirits cross over, which has been a big part of this whole thing too.
Sure. So, I mean, out of all your experiences, has there been one experience that sticks out to you as being more profound in all your like paranormal investigations?
Gosh, I've had so many. Um, well, I could tell one story that's actually in my book. So a friend of mine, Dave Spinks, and we've actually traveled all around the country together. We've done like dozens of investigations of haunted locations. And this one time we were in Ohio, and this place, there was a speakeasy brothel like type place that was very historical across the street, and we were investigating it for a couple of nights. And the place is super haunted, but nothing really evil there or anything like that. And they told us that we're staying in this cottage across the street, and they show us into the cottage, and like, I'm sensitive to this stuff, so like when there's something negative around, I immediately feel like, okay, something's wrong. And yeah, we walked in there, and I'm like, there's seriously something bad here. And Dave and I were drawn to go down to the basement, and we were walking around the basement, and usually a tall tale sign of possible portal, you lose your equilibrium, you can't really walk straight, and it just felt so bad and heavy and oppressive. So we would investigate, the house across the street, and we had a lot of activity, like footsteps and just noises and crazy responses. And, I was just like, and now I guess we got to investigate where we're sleeping, because something's wrong over there. So we go there, and we go down to the basement at night, and I just started getting clairvoyant flashes of like, torture equipment. And, I think there was a man that sadistically like raped and killed some women down in the basement or something of the sort. And then all of a sudden these women were start coming through and saying, oh, it's malevolent, it's evil, and like, help me and stuff like that. And yeah, I just like, that night we had to sleep in the cottage, and I'm up in the top floor in one of the beds, and I actually put like my rosary in a circle next to my myself in the bed, in a perfect circle. And it's a big queen size bed. And when I woke up, it was all the way on the corner of the bed in an upside down pile. And I'm just like, oh, geez. And then we investigated again. And then just like this, evil man, I had the feeling it was just, once again, where this kind of situation I've been kind of like drawn to having, or being pulled into, dealing with this sort of thing. I felt like there was some women that were trapped there by this evil spirit, this man that may have killed them himself. And I'm like, if these women are trapped here, then I'm going to pray for them. And he's screaming at me like through the device, spirit box, if you know what that is. It sifts through frequencies where spirits can speak potentially in real time to have a real time conversation. And I just went right up to the box, and I prayed for these women. And two women's voices came through two different boxes saying thank you. And it was the first time that I ever saw a white dove in my mind's eye, which now is my sign for a female crossing over. If it's a white horse, it's a man crossing over. And after that, we were leaving the property, and I could just hear this man in my head saying, you have hell to pay. You have hell to pay, just over and over again. I slept in a hotel room that night, and it was one of the most terrifying feelings I've ever felt. Obviously, the face is terrifying, but I was laying in my hotel room, and I just saw a flash of this red face, black horns, yellow eyes, and fangs, and it had a downward stare, like it stared into my soul. And I just jumped up, through holy water all around my hotel room. And then I finally drove home. It was like 7 hours back to New York, and I was passing out in my bed, and I could just see a shadow dart around my bed. And I just saw a vision of this guy. He's all decrepit and decomposed, and his mouth is all, crooked. And, I just saw him go like this to me, like, you're dead type of thing. And then I saw the shadow at the corner of my bed, and it had horns on, and I just heard this voice, and it just sounded like it was through a subwoofer going like, there are rules, just like that. And I woke up and like had the chills, of course. Threw holy water all around my bed, my room, and my apartment. And then like a day or two after that, I had red marks show up on my wrists and on top of my feet. And it was just one of those crazy experiences where this guy kind of references still in haunted locations to this day, saying, "You took those women away from me." He wants like revenge.
So, I mean, what do you think these spirits are trying to accomplish by like threatening you or, leaving these marks on you? Like, you think they just don't want you to further investigate or, reveal the truth in some manner?
Well, those marks specifically, I'm not so sure if that was something evil, because those are the marks of where Jesus was crucified, and the only thing that I can actually connect is that Jesus was crucified to save souls, and I don't know if I truly had my hand in helping those women cross over, then I don't know if that's a symbol for that. I'm not sure, because usually when they actually put red marks on you, I've been scratched before. It'll show up in claw marks and stuff like that, like in true scratches. So it depends, but a lot of these evil spirits, when you step in the way of evil, you're making yourself an adversary to the enemy of man, and that's the devil. And you're going to have to prepare yourself for the rest of your life. They're going to be looking for a way in through your aura, through your energy, to try to take revenge, and they'll never forget you. And that's something you got to deal with. You always got to be on guard for that. And if you're taking a soul away from the devil, I don't think he's going to be too happy. And that's why it brings me back to like why that thing with the horn said there are rules. If there are rules that I'm breaking, that have associated with the devil, then I really just don't care. I guess those are the rules I'm trying to break.
That's wild. I could just not imagine like any of this. I would like sleep with all the lights on and probably or never sleep at all.
Oh, I mean, I've been pulled by my ankle, a foot out of my bed. I've seen doors slam, and things have growled at me in my bed, screamed at me, tried to pull me out of my body. I mean, like, I've seen shadows. I've seen, little, child spirits. I've seen objects pick up and thrown. I've seen glowing red eyes, glowing yellow eyes. I mean, phantom smells. I mean, you name it. I've experienced it. But yeah, my faith is what protects me. I mean, like, again, fearing these things is something that undermines your protection with reducing your faith.
So you had mentioned a few times about the device that you use. What did you say? It's a EPG or EPK? What was it called?
You're talking guitars.
That's all I know. Sorry.
Yeah, no worries. So to hear disembodied voices of spirits is something called electronic voice phenomenon, which, say, any recording device, audio recording device, we would ask a question and you have to listen back. This is because spirits speak on a frequency that usually we can't hear with our audible ears. So we would have to listen back to that recording because the recorder is able to pick up on those frequencies. So we'd ask the question and listen back to see if there'd be a human voice responding to our question. That's what an EVP is for. Now, an EVP can also be projected through something like I was talking about before as well. It's called the spirit box. It sifts through frequencies on a radio constantly. So it's going through those frequencies very quickly, and that spirit's able to project a live EVP in real time while it's hitting on all those frequencies, and then it'll hear the white noise as it's speaking back and forth with you. So that's why it's a very interesting, unique piece of equipment. And there's a lot of other devices that do different methods, but still get the same type of results by communication, hitting on new levels for us as investigators and on different cases. So technology has definitely come forward more so when it was like in the 80s or 90s, when you'd have to look up in the yellow pages for someone to get help with a haunting in their house, like a parapsychologist, or trying to find someone like Ed Lorraine Warren. And those days they were only going out into haunted homes with like video cameras and tape recorders. I mean, that's pretty much it. So we have a lot of different avenues that we're, pushing the envelope, which is nice, to be innovative, to close the gap, to get more evidence, but also bring a happy medium between, science and the supernatural.
Do you know much about the history of these devices? Like, when was the first one developed originally?
I think it was the Frank's box, because I remember seeing it on documentaries before I was even involved. There was a guy named Frank. I don't know the history per se, specifically the description of it, but it was called the Frank's box, and it started to, change forms, and other people starting to delve into doing their own versions of it.
That's interesting. And I mean, where does one get one of these things? Like, I would imagine, like, would I just be able to go on Amazon and pick
Yep.
one of these up? Really?
Yep. Yeah, it's called an
No
SB7
way.
Spirit Box. Yeah, it's like there's a really talented engineer who makes the SB7s named Gary Galka. His daughter tragically died in an accident, and he felt drawn to building paranormal equipment to close the gap again and being innovative to prove that there is something after death. So obviously that passion resonates in a lot of his creations. And so the SB7 and the Mel meter, which is detects EMF, electromagnetic energy, which a lot of the spirits use to manifest. And that's why we use a lot of different types of equipment that try to measure that sort of thing.
Interesting. And you literally hear the voices, right? Like, you
Yeah.
could tell the difference between like a child's voice or a female's voice or a man's voice.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
It's crazy.
Oh yeah,
Really
it is.
interesting.
Sometimes I was just writing, finishing, the rough draft of my second book, and like I was talking about this place that I've been to so many times. It's such an interesting place to check out, and I recommend. I'm actually doing an event there August 22nd. If anyone's interested, you'll be able to investigate with me. I'm doing an acoustic performance, a book signing, and a Q&A regarding the paranormal. It's called the Shanley Hotel. It's actually in Napanook, New York. It's only like an hour and a half north of Westchester, New York. And the place is literally such a unique experience because it's made for paranormal investigating. You get a room and you can wander around the entire hotel and just investigate. Even the third floor is abandoned. You have a bordello where the ladies of the night start flirting with you, to a portal in the basement. You get the Irish mob, and all this stuff. And I've had so many crazy experiences involved with this place. But one of the last times I went there, we were down in the basement and there were just three of us, and we were just hearing like full conversations. We were sitting there with no equipment, and it's just a rare, occurrence like that when you're actually hearing voices audible with our own ears. And like one recorder we were recording with picked up on it, and another recorder wouldn't. So it just makes it even more unexplained, more strange. And it was just like, it's really exciting when you hear disembodied voices with your own ears, and nobody else is there. It's just, we heard a little child going like choo choo, and it was just like, did everyone just hear that? It's just like out of nowhere in midair. Never a dull moment.
Do you think these spirits are? I mean, for like an event like that, you think? Do you think these spirits are desperate to be heard? Like they want to be heard, or they want that company, or you? I mean, I'm sure it's probably mixed, right? Like, and maybe depending on their mood, maybe some nights are like, oh, what's this? A house full of people, like have an event, like maybe not turn it off altogether.
Yeah, absolutely. So any human spirit that's still lingering or earthbound is here for unfinished business. Are they attached to a location, a loved one, or an object? Are they afraid and think that they're going to be leaving that behind? Do they want justice for their death? Have they been murdered? Is there a tragedy associated with their death? There's so many diversified reasons why people pass away as a human, which would lead to a recipe of what we would call a ghost. So most of these humans, when they try to interact with us, they want to because they want that acknowledgement. They want to feel like they're human and alive still in this earthly plane because they can't let go of this life. They feel like they're more human. And that's why you quoted me and sang. And it's like, it's the same thing. Like we don't realize is that we're spiritual beings living a human experience, and it's not the other way around. We've come here to live in this physical vessel, to progress as a soul. And once our body dies, we have to return home, but you have to take that leap of faith and go towards the light so you can, broaden your knowledge spiritually, consciously, energetically as your soul to return home where we truly came from. And you can actually be with your loved ones and stuff like that. But if you don't let go and you're thinking more on the human side, then I think that's where you get these ghosts sticking around and thinking about the earthly things. But they don't realize they're not leaving it behind. They're just transitioning into a new form, a new consciousness of energy, and returning to that higher self, knowledgeable of where we came from and why.
So interesting. So, I mean, you mentioned, I know you just earlier, you told me you just finished up writing your second book. Let's talk about your first book, though, and congratulations on this new endeavor, because that's so exciting. So
Yeah, thank you.
you pretty recently released Shadow Chasers, which was your first book. Can you tell us a little bit about your experience as a first-time author?
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you how I did. I mean, I pretty much voice texted with my phone, and then I just sent it into the editor to make it all cohesive and put together, because I'm just like, I just trying to put it all, you know, together when it comes to so many different experiences and things like that. I mean, I just want to be able to get every single thing that I can think of when it comes to specific cases or investigations that I was involved with that were profound for me when it comes to my paranormal experiences as a whole. And that's pretty much what I did. And I kind of went back in my first book thinking about a couple of different omens that were foreboding before I got involved in the paranormal. And there were, and I'll give you two examples. When I was a child, we had a house out in Long Island. It was a little town called Remsenburg near West Hampton. And I was between like 8 and 10. I was running home in between the houses from a friend's house. And we lived on like a dead end. It was right on the bay pretty much. There was this tall dead grass. And I just remember looking in the left peripheral part of my vision. And I just saw this book and I picked it up. It was a satanic book. It was burnt on the edges. And I just had this creepy feeling and threw it down, ran home to my mom and like cried. It was one of those weird things that I just memorized out of nowhere. When I was writing my book, thinking about like, was there anything like when I was a child that would be something that would be connected to how this shit would start happening to me? And then there was another one 3 years before I got involved. It was like a few years, I believe, before I got involved in the paranormal. I was living in a house with a bunch of roommates, and a girlfriend of mine came to the house to hang out. And she never told me this story. She didn't tell me this story because she thought I would have thought she was crazy. But she ended up telling me this story because she saw me starting to post things about the paranormal and I was going out investigating. So she was open to actually telling me this. So she pulled up to my house and saw this black hooded thing staring into my window, turned its head, had black eyes and a whitish type face, and then disappeared. She said it was the most terrifying thing she'd ever experienced in her life. And to me, it was just like these dark demonic things knew that I was going to be involved and going up against their type of entities, that they're evil. And they were probably just watching me from the outside until I actually was, affecting my spiritual rules of engagement, which I call it, when you actually, delve in and you engage the spiritual realm, and then, things can interact with you when you start trying to interact with them.
It's crazy. I mean, do any girls fear dating you because of all this stuff? If you're like, oh my God, like this guy is a spirit chaser, they're going to chase me.
I mean, like, some girls are, terrified of it. Some people, some girls are like, interested in it. It's kind of like a unique balance, I guess. But for so many years, I've been so, focused on doing stuff that's been like, my mind's just been like so soaked up in dealing with these types of things and cases. But, I guess it's a preferred type of thing. I mean, like, most guys watch sports and drink beers, and I don't even watch sports anymore. It's music and Casper the Ghost and demonic evil, other dimensions. So I don't know. I'm a unique breed, I guess, but it is what it is. You like what you like. I'm passionate about what I'm passionate about, and that's just is what it is, I guess.
So funny. So tell us about your second book. So, I mean, could you tell us a little bit about it?
Yeah.
Like, how does it differ from your first?
It's basically just a kind of a continuation of places and cases that I got involved with that were profound in nature for me. Yeah, it's just, I'm actually going to call it Shadow Chaser, The In-Between. And that actually connects to the cover I have on my EP or C, where I'm looking into the mirror and you see a reflection of a woman around me, but then there's a ghost of a woman behind me. Because if you know, in the paranormal field, mirrors are considered doorways into other dimensions, and spirits can go in and out of them. And I just wanted people to interpret, like, am I looking into the future of a future love, or is it the spirit that's standing behind me, type of thing? And that's really what the spirit world is. It's the in-between. And I want to just incorporate that theme throughout the book. Yeah, just some crazy, creepy more stories. There's actually one really terrifying story. It was one of those the creepiest, craziest stuff that happened. I never dealt with someone who was possessed before. And in this story, it was a girl who was pregnant while she was demonically possessed, and nobody wanted to help her. No one wanted to touch the case with a 10-foot pole, because if something happened to the baby, they would be responsible. And it was right before I got involved really in demonology and learning about it. And I felt emotionally sympathetic and involved with trying to help her. And I just went through so much. There's so much crazy stuff that happened that's like Hollywood level, you wouldn't even believe. And I even have evidence of it. And that's a big chunk of one of my stories in the book too.
So interesting. So, I mean, I gotta ask this too. I know, like, often, I mean, I watch Forensics Files all the time. Like, that's like what I go to bed to most of the time. So,
Yeah.
you know, like, I noticed that, like, in a lot of crime investigations or unsolved cases, there's once in a while they'll hire a medium or you know, maybe paranormal investigators. Is that anything that you have experience with or would like to maybe explore in the realm
Well,
of your field?
I love forensic files. I love, the technology you can have to actually find evidence and get the suspect and charge them with some of the technological advances, such as forensics. I actually started getting involved with the Jennifer Dulos case, which is a big case involved with a mother who disappeared, who has 5 children, believed to be murdered. And I went in front of the house where she was allegedly murdered, and I had all these crazy experiences start happening. So I started going on the search with a friend of mine and searching around Connecticut. And I've had so many experiences and so many references, and we've been trying to figure out, where these spirits are leading us. And we're still doing that, trying to search for evidence of where her body might be. And I would love to be involved with that sort of thing. I would love to, close the gap between true crime and paranormal, to show that we can actually extract evidence for cases that they've used every resource that and exhausted them. And when it comes to the authorities, and maybe go from a unique approach and just go to these different types of places to try to help out with these types of cases, whether it's satanic murders or missing people or deaths or whatever it is, to give closure to the families, but also to bring justice to the souls that are could be lingering because they want justice for their death. So I mean, but overall, I just want to be able to help people. Any soul that I encounter in a physical sense, or even in death as their soul still earthly bound, I want to help. I want to share that light of what God would do, and expects from all of us is just helping others. And obviously, I'm involved in this sort of thing, and that's what I want to do: make an impact in the biggest way.
Sure, and I think that goes along with very much goes along with today's theme, spiritual success. I mean, no doubt you've had your success in your life's work, chasing spirits. But I mean, do you ever feel that your passion has led you to a deeper sense of fulfillment?
Yeah, absolutely. Music was one thing, and it was fulfillment for myself type of thing. But you wanted to like let people hear your voice, and I wanted music to do what it did for me, for my favorite artist, to inspire me, to get me through hard times. And when it comes to the paranormal sense, it's like one of the most fulfilling parts of the paranormal for me that I've felt is actually praying for the spirits and some of the emotional experiences that I actually have had while praying and after I pray. I'll see the white dove, say for instance, for a woman, and all of a sudden, like, I'll feel an emotion come over my body. And I always use this connotation of like someone running up to a fireman who just pulled him out of a building that's on fire, and the feeling of hopeful tears and thankful tears saying, you just saved my life. And I had this feeling, I feel like I want to cry, and all of a sudden through my box it'll say, thank you, now I'm going to heaven, in a female's voice. And it's just like, just at the possible chance that you have your hand in helping a soul find peace in a place that they have nowhere else to turn, is brings so much purpose, so much fulfillment. So all this dark shit that goes on with all the evil spirits and things like that, because it's not all just scary stuff. I mean, if there's evil, there's good, and I'm obviously on the side of good, but I have to go to some of the most dark places in order to bring that light and save some people that might be trapped in that dark.
I mean, ultimately, I mean, what do you wish to accomplish in your spiritual journey? Like, where would you like to take your life from here?
I would just like to make the biggest impact possible while I'm here. Life goes so quickly, and I just wrote a song recently, like a few weeks ago, and I it was pretty emotional for me. I wrote a song calling "Many Lives Within One," and it makes you, it just thinks about, like, when you're a child, that's a life, that's a different life, and then you're middle aged, and like that's a life. And you get older, it's like all these stages, even though you're the same person, it's just like I look back and I'm just like, that's a different planet to me. Different just like characteristics of lives that we live within one. And it just seems like it goes so quickly. And I just want to be able to make the biggest impact with what I'm passionate about doing while I'm here, trying to help others and just leave my mark in some sort of way, and just keep progressing for myself, learn through experience, and share that knowledge and with others, and try to help any single person that I can.
Well, you sure seem to be well along your way. And I mean, I can't thank you enough for giving us your time today. I mean,
Yeah, no
you're
problem.
incredible, and I I wish you continued success on all your endeavors. I mean, continue doing what you're doing and impacting lives, positively and writing great music. Did you
Thank
want
you.
to finish us out with one more song?
Yeah, absolutely. 1 second. I need inspiration to inspire, like when a song comes to life, a wizard. It's a vision that comes to fruition and leads love with forever intuition. Sometimes I strive with my heart, but keeps leading me into retreat. But I give you love, it said, again, you believing that it's between some say we only have been on foresee resurrection with every dying emotion, like a switch beyond my reach and no control. It spins my heart to one, then we see it clear. Who can break the walls and chase away my fears? Sometimes I strive with my heart, but keeps leading me to retreat back. Giving love is sad. You believe it, it's between. Some say we only have enough. I'm waiting for the sunshine. Grateful yesterdays. That's maybe what I am today. Now all of these memories, hoping you find a new inside. I give you love and said, forget it. You believe in it. It's between. Some say we only have enough. I'll wait for the sunshine. Na, 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 na.
The very talented Mr. Sean Austin. Sean, where could our audience be directed to your website and find out more about you?
Sure, it's SeanDAustin.com, SEAN, D as in David, AUSTIN.com. If you're interested in a signed book or a signed CD, I mail them out personally in the US. And if you want my book off out of the country, you'll get it off Amazon or all digital platforms for my music.
Thank you so much for the interesting conversation, and for you this afternoon. Make sure you all go and order Sean's book, and look forward to his second book. I know we will here at Afternoon Cocktail. So today's theme was spiritual success, and I'm going to leave you off with a few closing words. So often we define success by the outside world's measurement of our accomplishment by titles or material possessions. Spiritual success is inherently unique because it has nothing to do with any of that. Spiritual success has everything to do with the caliber of your character and how you impact the lives of others. The energy, passion, and love you devote and its impact on others, the connections we make throughout our lives. That is what cleanses our soul. That is what makes us feel whole. That is where our gratitude lies. That is where we find comfort in being our true selves. And that is what will long last beyond our departure. Commit to loving and accepting what matters most to you. Be grateful for the blessings in our lives that are already present and the ones that we frequently take for granted. There is nothing more abundant than human life and connection. And at the end of the day, nothing is more important than love. Thank you all very much for tuning in. Again, thank you to Sean Austin. Big thank you to Beau Productions and to Beau Ryan for being the amazing man that he is and helping us run the show successfully. I would like to just throw out a shout out also to today's sponsors, Electronic Merchant Systems. If you are interested in accepting credit card payments or need any assistance accepting credit card payments, make sure you see the charge card guys. Shout out to Compeer Rochester for your support and supporting our program. And also make sure you get your pizza orders this week through Salvatore's Pizzeria, local here in Rochester, New York. I wish you all a beautiful day. Thank you again for tuning in, and make sure you tune in again with us this Friday for a brand new show. We will see you soon. Have a great day.